Did he say 25%?
Yeah, 25.
What's up, guys? A lot of people have asked me to do an updated version of the Frost Mage guide for patch 6.0.3. Going into Warlords of Draenor, if you have pretty much under a 665 to 670 item level, pretty much until you get into Mythic rating gear, about halfway through the tier, is when you can start to play with the other specs a little bit. But as of right now, Frost looks like it's pretty much going to be the top spec for mages this entire tier. At least from most of the sim crafting that I've seen, most of the top raters that I've talked to, is as of right now, Frost is where it's going to be at. So what I want to do is just kind of go through kind of my thoughts, because there's a lot of guides out there. And some of them are really great, some of them aren't. So just be aware of that going in, that it is a little bit based on, my information is based on what I've seen, what I've done, and I got to do some rating a little bit. I'll see if I can put some of the Molten Core stuff in there for you guys. My item level when I did Molten Core was barely viable. I think it was like 615, and I was still topping the meters. When I did Highmaul normal mode, again, there was not a fight that I lost at, whether it was single target, multi-target. Now, granted, I wasn't raiding with the people I'm used to raiding with, top 50, top 100, U.S. guilds. That's not the group that I was raiding with. I was raiding with pretty much a guild-ran pug, because I wanted to actually go in and to experience it a little bit. So I might throw some of that footage at the end of this video for you to take a look at. But the big thing that I want you guys to understand about Frost is, if we kind of go through the beginning things of it, is it's very, very pretty much easy to learn, and it becomes a little bit more complicated to master, and I'll go into how in a little bit. But what we want to do is I'll quick run you through the talents. The talents for your 15 row is going to be Ice Flows. There's really no other spell that's going to give you the DPS increase that Ice Flows is. The nice thing about Ice Flows is it has 3 charges, and there's a lot of fights where movement takes place. Now, the way that I have my Frost Mage set up is I use my Ice Flows all the time. I don't just waste procs for movement. The reason I don't do that is because the way that I'm spec'd and the way that I play requires me to use my Ice Flows pretty much for Frostbolt while I'm moving. If I do get lucky and can use some procs while moving, great. But at least in the experiences that I've seen so far, is movement's not a monstrous deal in Highmaul as of normal mode and heroic mode. Now, Mythic obviously will be a different story, and I'm curious to see how progression goes with that via Mage. I will be following, Turkey Burger from Midwinter. I'll be talking with him, finding out what he likes. But remember, he's mainly arcane, so I will be watching, kill videos from all the top guys, seeing what they're using, and seeing what the numbers are pulling in relation to their guild is. Because at the end of the day, what I've seen is, there's a few guides out there, whether they are written or video guides, that are very kind of hit or miss. They don't really include everything that you need to include. So this video might be a little bit longer, but hopefully I'm going to explain things a little bit easier. Row 30, Alter Time, Flame Glow, Ice Barrier. I still think Ice Barrier is number 1. Having that Absorb Shield that just does so much is really, really good. So that's why I use it. Yes, it costs a global cooldown, but it's well worth the global cooldown in my opinion. Ring of Frost, again, the 45 talents are PvP, so we don't care. Level 60, Cauterize, Cold Snap, Greater Invis, all have different times where they come in really, really good. Again, depending on the fight, I typically will stick with Cauterize unless I need, that extra Cone of Cold, the extra Frost Nova, whatever else it may be, or I just want that extra ice block. So they all 3 have their purpose, but for the, the point of this video, Cauterize is very easy to deal with because it's passive. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, level 75. Now this becomes a little bit tricky. I use Ice Nova. Ice Nova is the best damage spell that you have. Typically on a fight, Ice Nova is always number 1 on my charts. Okay, so that's the reason I use it. It's just disgusting how much it hits. On top of that, the enemy will take 100% increased damage. So if you can, pop that and then throw out a couple of, either Frostfire bolts that are procced or Fingers of Frost procs with 5 icicles, you're doing great. Okay. Now the only thing that happens is you do lose Frost Nova when you use Ice Nova, so Cold Snap then becomes a little bit less effective. But again, we're not using that a whole lot unless we're really trying to CC ads. The nice thing about Ice Nova, it hits everything and it still does that. So keep that in mind. Now, the level 90 talents, we have pretty much 3 options here. Again, I stick with Incanter's Flow. There's a lot of people who've been using mirror images because it's really, really good uptime. You can use mirror images or Incanter's Flow. I don't recommend Rune of Power. The main reason I don't use Rune of Power is mainly because I don't like it. But if you are going to use mirror images, again, the uptime is key on this, okay? It's not that important of when because they're up for 40 seconds. So you're going to get time out of it. Obviously, with it being on a 2-minute cooldown, you can line it up with pretty much all of your stuff, but it is a nice DPS increase. The nice thing with Incanter's Flow is you will see just massive bursts out of mages using Incanter's Flow, especially as they get up to that 5 stack. They have their trinkets proc, they pop their cooldowns, you see just monstrous numbers, okay? That's why I've been mainly using Incanter's Flow. The nice thing is the worst effect you can have is 4% increased damage. That's the other reason I use it, okay? Now, Mirror Images does do a lot of damage, but I've been sticking with Incanter's Flow, and like I said, I have not lost a boss fight yet, whether it be single target, multi-target, whatever. Again, the disclaimer is I have not been raiding with typical high-end top, 5100 guilds. So, now the level 100 talents, this is where most guides fuck up, all right? And I apologize for the language. However, let me explain this. So Comet Storm right now doesn't do enough damage. Unless there's an absolute shit ton of ads that come out and you can use it on cooldown, it's really, really cool then. But again, if you don't have that consistent ad phase, you're going to get a better benefit out of Prismatic Crystal and Thermal Void, okay? Comet Storm literally needs to be buffed. Or it's just only used on fights where there's literally lots of ads the whole time out. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Thermal Void or Prismatic Crystal. Thermal Void, Prismatic Crystal. Most places will tell you Prismatic Crystal. If you want to see that super high burst phase at the beginning, go for it. However, what I'm going to tell you is that that's not always the case. Okay, so I like Thermal Void for one reason. It's passive. Casting Ice Lance extends your Icy Veins by 2 seconds. So, especially every time your cooldowns are up, I've had Icy Veins up for practically 40 to 45 seconds before of just massive damage coming out. To the point where my burst is still good. Obviously, it's not quite as high as Prismatic Crystal, but the sustained overall damage is much, much higher. Typically, the other mages who I played with all use Prismatic Crystal. They would be up near me and right by me at the top of the fight. As the fight went on, after their Prismatic Crystal was off, they would start to fall off the charts. I would stay consistently at the top. I would get such a large lead that it was almost impossible for anyone else to catch me. That's the reason that I use it. Now, the trick with Thermal Void is in order to get the benefit out of it, you have to manage your Fingers of Frost proc. So you don't really ever want to pop your cooldowns unless you're fully loaded. And what I mean by that is you have your Frostfire Bolt proc, you have both of your Fingers of Frost procs, and you have at least one of your 2 trinkets up, okay? That's when you want to pop it. Now, what happens is, okay, and I'll show you this real quick, but what you're going to do, okay, see, so now I have both my trinkets procced, I have both of my things procced, but I don't have any icicles above my head. So, obviously, I'll get rid of one at this point, and then once it pops, which it should any second, I can't imagine why it wouldn't. Either way, what we want is realistically the perfect scenario is going to be to have that icicle up. Once that icicle's up, we're popping those coolies, and we're just going ham. Now, watch my Icy Veins ticker in the top corner, okay? So I'm still at 14 seconds. Oh, there it is. So now I'm full icicled, pop that. Now, I use Water Jet, and I get 2 more Fingers of Frost procs. I pop my Frostfire Bolt, so I have 5 icicles again. I still have 1 icicle. Okay, I'm back up to 2 procs, so I'm going to pop my Frostfire Bolt again, get 5 icicles, keep going. And as you can see, obviously if I was managing that better, I could have kept Fingers of Frost up the entire time. But look at, I still have constant procs up. So I'm not firing until I have 5 icicles. And now I'm back down. I can pop my Water Jet again, get another one up. And now, even with my Frozen Orb, so I've got even more coming out. Okay? So as you can see, the big thing here is look at all the procs, look at all the sustained damage that you can do as a mage. And then obviously once you get your icicles, you get everything up. If you're managing your Fingers of Frost procs right, you can literally keep Icy Veins up for so long that the damage increase is awesome. Now this is the other thing I found, is see how during Frostbolt, if halfway through my Frostbolt I cast my water jet, I can get 2 Frostbolts in before the water jet comes off. Now if you pop water jet from your pet as soon as it's up and then you start casting Frostbolt, you're only ever going to get 1 because haste is our worst stat. Okay, so always pop your water jet when you're about halfway through a Frostbolt cast, and that way you'll get the benefit of having both procs. Okay, that's going to be the best way to do things. Now, the second thing that I wanted to go into before we get into rotation and stat priority and everything else is glyphs. Okay, so glyphs, you mainly have a couple of options. Obviously, travel distance blink isn't that important. Cone of Cold ends up being really, really good. Counterspell, if you're, you can take this again. Very, very kind of worthless in my opinion. Glyph of Frost Nova, again, not very important. Again, Ice Block, not very important. Icy Veins, very, very good. Okay, grants 30% multi-strike instead of Spell Haste. Spell Haste is our worst stat right now in Warlords of Draenor. Okay, Haste is literally the worst stat we can get. Multi-strike is our second best stat. So we want multi-strike. So no matter what you're doing, you're glyphing Icy Veins. Okay, Polymorph, again, you know how to use that. Double Blink, you can use that. Remove Curse. We are using this again, guys. Little by little, we are using this. So keep that in mind that you may end up using this a little bit. Spell Steal heals you. Again, not a huge deal. Splitting Ice. This is amazing, amazing glyph for pretty much any fight. Where there's even an add up. As long as they're stacked, you get so much damage benefit out of this that it's ridiculous. Okay, because remember, your Ice Lance and Icicles now hit 1 additional target for 50% damage. So not only are you hitting the main target with that huge Ice Lance, but you're also getting all the icicle benefits from it too. So that's where you're going to see just an absolute ton of damage when you're stacking things like Frozen Orb, getting that Ice Nova off. You can see just massive damage output in multi-target positions. And this is why Frost is so good, because single target, multi-target, and AoE, the burst is insane. You can do incredible, incredible damage. Now, Water Elemental, again, another really good glyph. If you're just doing a single target burn, having this ability, I think, is just nicer to have. It can cast while moving, and it makes you get more damage out of your Water Elemental over the course of the fight. At least that's what I found. Now, Regenerative Ice, again, you can choose if you want that or not. As far as minors, there's really none that you absolutely need. I like Momentum just because it lets you blink wherever you want. I use Frostbound or Unbound Elemental, but again, all these are flavors. Okay, so let's get into your stat priority real quick. Your stat priority is going to be crit. Right now, going through the Simcraft that I found it's almost impossible to hit the crit cap for Frost right now for PvE. So crit is still our #1 priority. The other nice thing about crit, guys, is remember, going forward, if you want to play fire down the road, you're going to want crit. Okay, you're going to want crit because that's going to be your #1 stat for fire. So keep that in mind. Now, multi-strike and versatility, those are pretty much hand in hand. Okay, versatility and multi-strike are our next 2 best stats. Multi-strike, some people say multi-strike's better, some people will say versatility's better. So if you can find any piece with crit verse, crit multi, verse multi, those are like the main ones you want. After that comes mastery, after that comes haste. Okay, so that's literally our stat priority. That's what I've been going by, and even with mages who outgear me by a shit ton, I've been destroying them using that build. So again, I don't know how skilled they are in comparison to, I don't want to say I'm overly skilled, but I have played in top guilds, top 25 US garage kill. I do know what I'm doing. Top 50 US for every other kill with last word. And the guys that I talk to, again, to theorycraft things, are top end guys. So keep that in mind, that I don't just, give you my opinion based off my opinion. It is based off everything that I've found so far. So that's your stat priority. Now, as far as rotation, again, we never want to have more than 2 fingers of, we can't have more than 2 fingers of frost procs. So once you always have 2, just fire 1 off, okay? Unless you're really planning for that opening burst. So I'll show it to you real quick. Okay, so this is kind of our ultimate thing that we want. Okay, so we're here, so we're going to pop that. Pop 1 icicle off, there we go. We're going to pop that. Okay, pop another Ice Nova. So again, we have 2, we have full icicles, we're burning. 2 full icicles, burning. And look at my Icy Veins, it's still at 14 seconds. Okay, we're at full icicles, burn. Pop that other Ice Nova, get that extra damage out there. all this extra damage. Boom, another Fingers of Frost proc. We're right back here. We still have 6 seconds. We're back to full icicles. Let's burn that off just like that. And look at that. Look how much time that I have Icy Veins up for. It's just now coming off. And actually, if I would have got lucky with one more proc, I could have actually extended it again with Water Jet. So as you can see, guys, that's what we're doing. Is obviously we're always filling with Frostbolt. We want to fire off our Frostfire bolts to get our 5 icicles up, and then we want to pummel 5 icicles into the boss. The more we can manage 5 icicles into the boss, the more damage we get. Okay, so really your priority system comes down to lining up your trinkets and your cooldowns with your Incanter's Flow. Again, a lot of people will make a TMW or something for Incanter's Flow so they can always see where it's at. I should probably do that if I was, really trying to min-max my guy and really, rating at the highest level. I would be doing that right now. But again, I'm not at this point. Again, tracking your Water Jet, tracking your Frozen Orb, tracking your Icy Flow stacks, tracking your Ice Nova stacks, keeping track of your cooldowns. I use Tell Me When for all this stuff, guys. Tell Me When is one of the greatest things ever. My whole UI is LBUI. I do have a whole video series on all my add-ons. They're in my WoW videos, so go check those out as well if you're curious about how my UI is set up. That's what I use for all that stuff. So the only thing that I would add on here is probably Incanter's Flow to keep track of. Now, again, guys, the other thing that we bring is Amp Magic. So don't be afraid to use Amp Magic. If you're told to use it at a certain spot in your raid group, cool. Otherwise, keep an eye on your party health. Keep an eye on your life of your party. If you know there's big damage coming out, like on Tectis during that tectonic upheaval, if there's only one cooldown going out and it's a druid doing his trank, buff that trank up. Give that Amp Magic. The better you are at using Amp Magic, the better your raid's going to love you, okay? When they see everybody get that little buff like that, okay, let me tell you something. Healers love that. That's when they know they want to pop those cooldowns, all right? So make sure you're getting good use of Amp Magic because it is going to be critical going forward. Now, the other thing that you might want to do is bind your pet's freeze ability. In dungeons, it helps a lot. There are some adds in some fights and some trash where you can freeze. So be aware of that. But mainly, our pet, we're going to be using Water Jet, okay? And the reason we're using Water Jet is not for the damage. We're using Water Jet to line up those cooldowns and to keep those Fingers of Frost procs going. Because remember, guys, if we have Fingers of Frost procs, then we don't have to do this. We don't have to waste those ice flows, especially if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, okay? That's really the big key here. So again, I'll show you. We're here. Oops. Okay, so we're still good. We're going to let those icicles come off. We're going to pop that. See, we're back to full icicles. Boom. Back there. So let's pop that. Let's get our ice or our Water Jet out. See, now I didn't time that Water Jet right. That's okay. See, so I should have 2, but I don't because I suck. But if I was timing that right, again, now I'm back to icicles, I would have, 3 more seconds on my Icy Vein. So this is why I use Thermal Void, guys, just so that you guys are aware, is because you can get so much more use out of it when you use that with your Water Jet, with your full procs. You can get just tons and tons of damage. So keep that in mind. Also, guys, so when you're going through, though, don't just listen to me. Watch videos like Preach. Preach does a pretty good job at kind of introducing you to all the beginning stuff, so make sure you check out his stuff. Icy Veins does a great job. They have a really good write-up. And they typically are backed by high-end top world characters, okay? So that's why you want to use Icy Veins. Now, as far as Noxic goes, a lot of people talk about Noxic. My kind of theory on Noxic is I don't really follow Noxic. I don't know who they use. They don't really advertise who they use for their numbers. They work on a lot of different games, so it's a lot of SimCraft stuff. So again, you can take that with a grain of salt. Are they probably right sometimes? Yeah. Are they probably wrong sometimes? Yeah. So I typically will also go through and figure out my play style. The nice thing with Warlords is you have a lot of room to play with, okay? You do have some talents where you can make some different choices based on the fight. Your utility is very good. Frost just has everything. Has great control, great AoE. You can slow, you can do single target, you can burst really well, you bring Lust, you bring Amp Magic. You can do a lot of different things for your raid. So mages are in a really, really good place right now, I think at least. I would like to see how we do as soon as Fire and Arcane get the gear to be good, which will probably be next tier. So for right now, guys, I'm just going to stick with this Frost guide, and then as more and more specs get played, I will start going through and testing those for you as well. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one.